Welcome to In the Know with KO. I'm your host, Kristen Adams, also known as KO. We are back in the studio, and I am so excited to bring you In the Know KnowVember. And guess what I got? Brand new talk show note cards like Jimmy Fallon. I mean, that's like the coolest thing ever. So this KnowVember is going to be a month of awareness. It's going to be a month of growth and learning how to know yourself better. And what does that mean? Well, you know what? This episode is where it's going to start. It's going to be a little more personal, and I'm going to share a lot about how I went from surviving to thriving. And, reinvention doesn't happen overnight. If you've tried, you know. And if you know, you know. Not all sunshine and green juice. It's not all rainbows and perfection. It's hard, right? And, I feel like if healing were a straight line, mine would look a lot more like an EKG. Okay. So if that's some perspective. So what survival mode looked like for me? Well, which time, right? I mean, let's face it. I don't think anybody my age or younger or older has gone through survival of something once, right? Like I feel like we've gone through it multiple times. Sometimes it's really great and we do a good amount of healing, forgiving, laughing, crying, anger, all the stuff, right? And then other times we're just glutton for punishment. We go back for more because that first time of pain and punishment, it wasn't enough. We're going to go right back in. We're going to repeat the bad behavior. We're going to allow people to cross those boundaries. And, like the true definition of insanity, we end up with the same results. However, when you look at what that actually looked like, how was it emotionally? How was it mentally? And how was it physically? Because I know for me, each time I went through something traumatic, hard, whatever it was that required me to go into that survival mode, it looked really different. The main reason was my age. I lacked life experience. I lacked empathy, sympathy, compassion, understanding. I mean, there were so many things that I was lacking the younger I was, even though obviously as a teenager, I knew it all, right? And if you're raising a teenager, I know you're laughing right now because you're like, oh my gosh, my teenager knows everything. So let's just circle back to when I was a teenager for a moment. I have shared in previous episodes that I was in a really bad relationship at the young age of 15, and I was physically hurt by this person, and that helped me realize the importance of not being in a bad relationship like that, but I didn't realize it in the moment, okay? And that's what I mean about when you go into survival mode. Like, I didn't realize how bad it was, how toxic and harmful it was, even though everyone who loved me in my life was warning me, flashing lights, trying to get me to move on. I didn't see it yet. I had to hit that rock bottom moment. Then fast forward a little bit into the high school time, I had that bad relationship. I was also being bullied in high school, and it was really hard for me to show up and push through that. And then I started getting into fights, and then my grades started to tank. I had a learning disability that nobody even knew about because I figured out how to overcome it quietly. And there was just no real true warning signs out there. Nobody really knew. And if you don't know something through experience, even my parents, because my parents were only 19 years older than me. They were very young parents. So they were kind of growing up at the same time I was. And a lot of the things that I went through, they just didn't experience. So they were not really equipped. And I love my parents. I miss them so much. But I look back now, they really did a great job, especially considering they were so young. So, going through those things that I went through as a teenager, it kind of caused a lot of damage, and it also hurt me. So the pieces in my heart and my soul, they were never really put back together because I never really dealt with it properly. And then my parents got divorced, And then eventually I got divorced in my early 20s or mid 20s. I had a son when I was 24 from that marriage. And, although my ex-husband and I had a very cordial breakup, we're still good friends. And, I think he and his wife are amazing people, grateful for that. There was still a lot of things that I disconnected from that I never dealt with properly. And as a result, I carried that into other relationships. And, losing my parents was probably the biggest survival mode that I had to face as an adult. And losing both of my parents as an only child, that was definitely my aha moment. I think that's what separates the survival mode into the thriving mode, because that's when you start to climb out of that hole. And so for me, healing is not about going back. It's about moving forward with wisdom. And wisdom, you can read a book a day. You can read 100 books a day. But a lot of the stuff that you read is good. It's helpful. I think that reading and knowledge is amazing. And I always say, I wish I had more time to read. But a lot of the life experience, that's where the really good stuff comes from. So for me, small, consistent choices is what started my shift, not grand gestures. So for me, it was recognizing my role in those relationships, even though as a 15-year-old girl dating a guy who was just no good for me, who was like physically abusive and mentally unstable, all of those things, I had to make my own adjustments to overcome that a little bit at a time. And it didn't happen until I was in my 20s and even my 30s, actually. I had to slow down and listen to my body. Not just my mind, not just my heart, but my actual physical body was suffering as a result of some of those things that I carried into future relationships. And it didn't make those relationships any easier because I was totally jaded. I had trust issues. I had self-esteem issues. I had so many things going on. I also compromised my health. I had all types of digestive problems. I mean, you name it. And healing looks different at every age and stage because of that. So, the younger you are, the more carefree you are. You don't have as many things going on. You don't have as many responsibilities. So maybe it's a little easier to carry a little bit more on your shoulders or in your heart or in your gut or in your mind or in your soul. Like, we carry so many things in so many different places. So as we get older, those are directly impacted. Why? Because we have more responsibilities. We have more people in our life that we love, people who love us. And those things become a lot harder when you've got heavy weight on you and you have things burdening you from the inside. And for me, I found you can't heal in the same environment that makes you sick. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not saying that every time you have a hardship, you should pack everything up and get the heck out of there. What I mean is, what are you doing to make your environment better? I know for me, I absolutely love first thing in the morning when I wake up, it doesn't matter if it's 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. First thing I do, I make my bed and then I open up all of the windows. Not physically opening them up. I mean like letting the light in. I want the sunshine. I just want to be reminded of all the great things I have ahead of me today. And I have a lot of things to be grateful for. It's really easy to go down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, I have all these things I got to do. I didn't sleep well last night. I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. Okay, well, it's yesterday. You can't go back to it. I wish we could, but we can't. But you can take what you have in front of you and you can improve your environment. And that's what I mean by changing your environment that made you sick to help you be well. So people reveal themselves when you stop over-functioning for them. And that was a big shift for me in my life because I like to do for people. I like to give advice. I like to share ideas. And I've been accused of being a know-it-all even at times. And that kind of hurt my feelings, not going to lie. But I see why some people would see that if they don't know me as a person or maybe why I'm motivated. I just get super excited to see other people survive and thrive. I also get really super excited to share ideas, to help people that I love and that I care about because I appreciate when people have done that for me or still do that for me. And, boundaries are very important in maintaining that in a healthy way. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates that you control. You can control how much or how little you have someone and allow someone to be in your world. And this is how, if you're familiar with Mel Robbins, I'm going to credit her 100,000%. This is how the Let Them Theory book was written. And it really, truly helped to reframe that for me. Let them. Let them misunderstand me. Let them walk away. Let them live their version of life while I live mine. And the minute you realize acceptance is better than control, that's where peace begins. Because what I also realized with a lot of the digestive issues that I was struggling with, and in my heart and in my mind, a lot of that was self-inflicted because I was so worried about helping somebody else or controlling that narrative that I was overlooking my own self. And you know what? Rachel Hollis says something very profound. Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. Other people's opinion of you is none of your business. That's a hard one to swallow because we genuinely, I think, as human nature, we care about what other people think of us, right? Well, you can care about what they think, but guess what? It's still none of your business. And I've dwelt on that for a very long time with all the wrong people. And the way I see it, the people in your life who bring out the best in you, those are your besties. And that's why I call them besties. I have more than one. Why? Because they bring out the best in me. And I hope I can bring out the best in them too. And I like just being around people that I don't have to work so hard. I don't want to have to worry about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. That is exhausting. So that's where letting go of control is so hard for me. Why? I don't know. Fear, I think. Fear of what they may think, fear of them not doing it my way. And why does that make them wrong? I don't know. It's just how it is. That's how I see things. And I've noticed that since I let that go, all of my relationships that I really treasure have gotten even better because I do a lot more listening than talking, which, if you know me, is extremely hard for me to do because I'm like, oh, but wait, we just want to share. I have one more thing to say. Because I'm so excited about it. It's not because I want to be overstepping, right? So I also truly believe when it comes to healing, that healing is not linear. It looks like progress one day and totally falling apart with tears and a pity party the next day, right? And you're the same exact person in the same exact environment. But whatever it was that you went through yesterday didn't hit the way it hit the next day, and now you're bothered by it. So, for me, there was times in my life where I thought I had healed and I had just moved through something really difficult. And then, bang, something triggers me. And that old wound, it's not really as healed as I thought it was. However, recognizing that is so tremendous. It's the stuff that we don't know about. It's the triggers that are unaware, the triggers that are completely oblivious to us that are way more scary because then you're like, I don't even know how to deal with that. And we may not have all the answers. And you know what? Totally okay. But what I do know that is so important, mandatory, is to laugh, okay? And if you're in my presence, you're already aware of the fact I choose happy. I choose joy. The number one rule in my house, if it's funny, you're not in trouble, and it doesn't matter what it is. And that is a true statement. My kids will tell you, my husband will tell you, closest friends and family outside of our house, they will also tell you. Every part of my life somehow circulates around laughter and fun, and I'm not saying to joke around about things that are serious, because there's definitely a time to be serious. But after you get your arms around whatever serious or intense moment that you're dealing with, it's okay to laugh. One of my cousins, Vinny, I'm going to give you a shout out right here. As I walked through the loss of each of my parents, there was something so special that he shared with me because he saw I was struggling. And you know what I was struggling with? I was struggling with the guilt of being happy because I felt like I'm supposed to be sad. How could I possibly be happy at a time like this? My parents died, and it was only 3 years apart from my mom and to my dad. And as an only child, that was really tough. Thankfully, I do have close family members like him who love me enough to see that struggle and give me permission to be happy. I just needed that reminder. And so now I recognize that. And when I see other people that are struggling in something similar, I like to inspire them and love on them and remind them about being happy. So that's why it's important through the chaos, through the sadness, through the struggles. If you're trying to figure out how to survive and how to thrive, well, guess what? Even if you're struggling, you can still do it and be happy. You can still have a rough day and be like, well, here we are. Perfect example right here in the podcast studio. We did a really great recording of something last week, only to find out afterwards when we get ready to go to the editing table, none of the sound worked. All right, well, I can be aggravated. I could be bent out of shape. But guess what? I was like, well, we did a really great dress rehearsal, and now it's going to be even better. And we choose to see it that way. That's how I operate. And if you don't see it that way, you're allowed. I'm going to let you feel that way. Okay? So that's where setbacks taught me a lot more than breakthroughs. The breakthroughs became an animal of their own because of how I chose to overcome the setbacks. So my tip of the week is a bit of a wellness shift, right? What are some small changes that you can make? All right, maybe you don't know the answer to that question. I can't hear you right now, but if I could, I would hope that our conversation would include things like sleep routines or hydration, right? I mean, you could drink coffee all day long, but are you really going to give your body and your organs and your brain and your skin the things that it needs? Probably not. And you may not feel as good. Your gut health may be compromised. See, all those things are tied in. Walking is the number one exercise for literally everything in your life. I know for me, if I don't walk enough, I feel it. I feel it in my sleep at night. I feel it in my digestive system. It oxygenates my blood. It helps me to think more clearly. I get out there. Sometimes I get on a phone call and maybe talk with a really good friend or family member that I haven't had a chance to chat with uninterrupted. I also love listening to my favorite playlists, and they are wildly different. Sometimes I just want some really great 1990s freestyle. If you know, you know. And maybe I'm just going to go right into some top country music from the 80s to the 2000s. I don't know. It's a little bit of everything because that's who I am. I am a mixture of everything. And journaling is something I am not very good about doing it as often as I want to, kind of like reading, but I still believe in it. And I think that everybody can do it differently. Sometimes people like to do it at the end of the day. Like for me, I like to make note of all the things that I accomplished rather than dwelling on the things that I didn't do, because we're human. Things happen. Sometimes it's within our control. Sometimes it's not. But I'm okay with keeping things written in pencil so I can erase it and put it into the next day if I need to. Not suggesting to be a procrastinator because that truly makes me crazy. I'm a planner. I'm a scheduler. I like to be on time. That's who I am. But not everybody does. And I'm going to let them be late. And I'm going to let them be disorganized. But that doesn't mean that I have to allow that in my space, right? And so that's where, even like I said earlier, opening up the curtains first thing in the morning, letting that sunlight in, super important to me. And taking my doggies outside for a quick little walk, even if it's 5 minutes. Just that quick 5 minutes of getting the rays of sun, even if it's cloudy out, it's still good for you. So this not only impacts you mentally, but it really does improve your energy and it does help your focus. And honestly, if you're doing all of those things, I feel like the relationships in your life are going to be better too because you're better and you're bringing a better you. So here's a challenge for all of my listeners. Okay, I'm going to join you on this in the Know November. Try one small shift. Do it this week, every single day for just one full week. Be consistent. and then share about it. Because I'm going to post this video and I hope to see lots of comments, and I love to get messages. I really take such pride in getting compliments and questions and feedback. But even if you don't comment and you don't message me, share it with a loved one, okay? Hold yourself accountable with an accountability partner, someone else who is on the same similar path or journey that you're on. That could totally work out. And you know what? Reward yourself. Why not? Why not? We deserve it. It could be something as simple as, if I lose this next 5 pounds, I'm going to buy myself a new pair of jeans. Or if I walk 5 miles a day, I'm going to buy myself a new pair of shoes, sneakers, whatever. Give yourself grace and give yourself some rewards. It's fun. And then you know what? Choose happy. And if you need a reason to be happy and you can't find one, reach out. I'll give you a reason to be happy. I'll remind you of why you're awesome. Even if I don't know you, I guarantee you in 30 seconds or less, I can figure out a reason why you're great. Because if you're listening to this, it means you care. And if you are paying attention to these specific tips, that means that you want to get there. So I'd be happy to help you. The main thing for me is you need to have the right tools in your toolbox, right? Like if you're a plumber and you show up on the job with something in your toolbox that an electrician should be using, are you going to be a very good plumber? Probably not. I think that tools are different for everyone, and there is no one size fits all. I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of experience, and I don't mind sharing that, but I'm still filling my toolbox with nuggets of information and helpful hints and tips and tricks, right? So for me, here's some examples of what I like to have in my toolbox. I carve out uninterrupted time with my family, whether it's a couple nights a week at the dinner table, or we take a bike ride, or we go take a walk by the beach, or we go out for ice cream, whatever that is. It's a no cell phone zone, and it's an uninterrupted time for us to connect, to talk about what's going on in each other's lives, because we are literally moving 100 miles an hour every single day. And, my husband and I, we both work from home, but we are literally like two ships passing in the night sometimes where, yeah, we might be under the same roof, but I may not have a conversation with him for 10 hours, So connecting with my kiddos, connecting with my hubby, uninterrupted, that is the number one way I truly love to reset and plug in. I also believe in the power of prayer, and sometimes I do it independently. And you know what? Sometimes I like to involve somebody else that I know loves me and sees things the way I do to help encourage me and hold me accountable. I also think that getting into a project and maybe doing something for your home or somebody else, or making something for someone, whether it's cookies or building something, I love repurposing furniture. Who knew? I love that, actually. Finding something on the curb, on the side of the road that someone thinks is trash is now my treasure. And I've loved pouring myself into little projects and reinventing stuff. I also believe that sometimes it involves deeper work. For me, coming through trauma, I had to do what's called EMDR. And that's something we're going to do an entire episode on. I'm going to bring in some professionals and we're going to share eye movement desensitizing and reprocessing. It's actually a natural way to help you process the most difficult challenges in your life that you've struggled with to get through things like PTSD. And I highly recommend it. And if you have questions, I'm always happy to answer them. But therapy is not a sign of weakness, guys. It is training for emotional resilience. If you do anything in life, whether it's marathon running, and if that's your thing, God bless you, I can't run to save my life. And if you see me running, something really bad happened, and you should probably run too, because I don't run. I walk, I'll ride a bike, I'll play tennis, I'll play pickleball. I like lots of things. Running is not my thing. And kudos to people who do these big marathons and all that train. But regardless of what you're training for, whether it's playing a musical instrument, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you've got to be prepared, and you've got to put in some time, consistency, and discipline. And emotional wellness and healing is no different, guys. So there's times I could have given up. And guess what? I didn't. And here we are on In the Know with KO sharing. So I encourage you to stick with it. Stay positive, even when you're not. Because there are definitely times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, why am I even going through this? Why am I doing this? And you know what? Who do we answer to? Seriously, do you know how many times I have put so much unnecessary pressure on myself and I'm just like, why am I so worried about this? Who in the world am I answering to? Me, myself. And I'm putting all this pressure on myself, totally unnecessarily. Positivity is not pretending. It's perspective. It's how you choose to see things. And no matter how much positivity you may put into something, let other people receive it the way they want to. You cannot control how another person responds. You can only control yourself, right? And this is where I like to hold a little bit of space for both gratitude and grief, because there is a place for it. And grief doesn't always mean that you've lost someone you care about, okay? Sometimes it means you've lost a relationship. Maybe you've lost a job or a home or a car or anything. You got to go through the grieving process and then you can let it go and then you can start to heal and you move on. And I also believe that's where the power of humor is a very big part. You know, you can laugh with your pain. It doesn't mean you're denying it. You're just putting it in a different place and not allowing it to take control of you. And it's healthy to laugh. You know, have your go-to ready for those tough days. You know, I love a quote by Audrey Hepburn. She's just one of the most classic women of our generation, of all generations actually here in the world. Her quote is, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible." I mean, how about that, right? Impossible? I'm possible. So in closing, you guys, I just want to encourage you, go from toxic to thriving. And remember, it's not a destination. It is a daily decision. And what does thriving look like for you? It's not going to look the same as it does for anybody else because you're the only you out there. Even if you're an identical twin, you are still your own you. Okay, so tag me, message me, and let me know how you are in the know in November, because we've got some really great stuff coming, inspiring guests, whether they are entrepreneurs, coaches, survivors, just all out game changers. We're here to break some truth bombs out, okay? Like we're going to be launching stuff and talking about things that are somewhat controversial, but I still think are necessary, whether it's health and wellness to PTSD. You know, the FDA is causing me to go WTF. So I don't know about you, but I'm like, what the freak? They are putting us through some challenging things and you got to figure out what works best for you. But knowledge is power and so is experience. And so I also want to normalize stuff. So going into this November, I want to talk about things from grief to hardships to preparing for death, not just your own, but the people in your life that you care about. How do you deal with that aftermath? So some of these guests are friends of mine. Some of them are mentors that I admire. And some of them are just real life trailblazers. They are major overcomers. And that's why I want to bring you in the know. So with that said, thank you for listening. Don't forget to tag, share, comment, like, all the things. And until next time, I hope you feel in the know with KO. Thank you.